I am going to introduce you all to our next speaker, Daniela. I'm hoping that she's here. I can see her. Nobody panic. Welcome to the stage, Daniela. She is a master psychologist, passionate about positive psychology, an AI tool creator, and an international speaker. Welcome, Daniela. All yours.
Thank you so much. Hi. Very, very happy to be here. So before talking a little bit about generative AI and emotions, I just wanted to give a little gratitude to this space for me and for you. So I want you to do one thing before I start, and is look around or look behind or look beside the woman that is around you. Say thank you to her and say your name. My name is blah, thank you for being here. That's all I want you to do. I love seeing already from side to side, hands high. I think that's amazing. So a little bit about me is 1 year ago, not even a year ago, 11 months ago, I changed my life. I'm from Colombia, and I came to London to do my master's in positive psychology and coaching. Just because I really do believe a lot in a proactive well-being, and I'll go through that a bit later in the presentation. But I remember when I was in high school that they told me that I was very bad in maths, so I should never really go into business. All business I thought I would do in my life was just keep playing Monopoly with my brothers every Sunday. And then I arrived here and I started breaking a lot of biases of my own education. And I started welcoming a lot of strengths that I have not seen in myself before, but I started to getting committed to them and trusting in them. And then I got into emerging technology. So the first thing I want to say today is that according to that, mindful technology building is way more about the people than it actually is about technology. Just in these 11 months, a lot of things have happened in Web3 world. And now, as we were seeing before, generative AI came and brought us the possibility of using it as non-techie people. I've never worked in tech either. And that did not make me not want to learn and not want to place it in service for my own purpose. My purpose has always been, since more than 5 years ago, to build a more empathic world. And the way I found to do that first was positive psychology and placing that in values in companies, in startups, to build the culture within those values. Now generative AI gave us the possibility to learn how to speak technology or how to understand technology from a product perspective, so we can merge it as a tool for our purpose and be very, very aware of the impact that it can bring, choosing that first. And I say this because with curiosity, there's a lot of chance to just go and start thinking, what can my business be about with AI or with whatever emerging technology that comes? And it's okay, but it's way better to ask ourselves first, what is my purpose? What is the story that I really want to tell? And what are the tools out there for easing my path within that and create a bigger purpose, a bigger impact, sorry. So I learned this one thing some years ago with Richard Branson, is always be connecting the dots. To actually build mindful technology and actually see them as a tool, you've got to be aware of connecting the dots within what do you want to do with it, what can it actually do, and what's the vision that you can make with it. So the ideas start to emerge. And one simple idea can make a difference for someone else. So the dots that I was connecting was, I started analyzing, and that's also why I chose positive psychology 5 years ago, that the resources and the tools that the contemporary psychology was giving me, the classic psychology, was not being enough for me to actually help me and my family to move forward my parents' divorce, because it tended to focus too much in the problem. And nowadays, what's happening is that mental health is still $1 trillion cost, especially depression and anxiety. Gen Zers, fortunately, and the future generations are paying more attention to it. It is their number 3rd concern. They really want to work on it in a more proactive way. And the thirst for digital tools has grown 54.6% year over year since COVID, since 2020. So the message here for me was, if mental health crisis is still growing, future generations are wanting to pay more attention, but also there are more tools, there's something that might be missing there. Why is it not solving the problem? So in my point of view, is that the future of well-being is where technology merges with proactiveness. Is starting to think more of how to help people be well, and more than clean up solutions, that they are also necessary to, if we are feeling -6, going back to 0 and back in our ground and back in our emotional safetiness. But also, and mostly I would say, for the future purposes, we need more tools that moves us from 0 to +6. That helps us feel more courageous, that helps us feel more confident, that helps us feel well. So when challenges come, we remember that emotion and we make better decisions. And for so, we move forward a more meaningful life. And this is why I started what it's now called Thrive, with the use case of generative AI for emotions. Because I do believe that if we give back the people the power of their own healing, there's a lot in self-awareness that will make that impact be more for the long run. These are other types of use cases that you can find with generative AI and well-being. So for example, as we were seeing before, ChatGPT, it's text to text, which means you give it text, it'll give you back text. What is that being used now for in well-being is chatbots for therapy, that you would talk to it and it will give you back resources and recommendations and a bit of support. I also say that, in my point of view, the human side of this will always be there and be needed for it. Second case is text to voice, which means you'll give it text and it'll give it voice back to you. So there are a couple of tools that could be used for that, for personalized meditations. When I say personalized, it's not just for it to talk to you in the way that you would connect the most, but for example, with Murph AI, you can actually choose which accent and which tone of voice connects you the most. And that's something that I found very interesting, because with my patients, and you'll see in a bit, and there's where the third use case comes, I started doing guided meditations for them. And within those meditations, talk to them about their strengths, reminded them about their purpose, about why they would feel loved, about their belonging. And then I would generate an image for them to remind their emotion, and that became the positive emotional trigger. And I had this one patient that he got used to my voice, and when I got into meditation state, I don't know why, but my voice turns out soothing somehow. And then I played him another meditation as I was waiting for him to do it, and he literally stopped me like, Danny, I'm not connecting with this voice. I can't go to that place. And then I thought how powerful it could be to use generative AI and tools like Murph to help people choose freely how they connect the best. So the methodology that I use is positive psychology. So as I mentioned before, 5 years ago, I chose positive psychology because it's the science of flourishing. What we do is that we study what are the aspects that makes us all feel in a flourishing state. It does not mean that we don't go through all the emotions. We do. We all feel anger, sadness, fear, uncertainty, doubt. But we want to deal with those emotions with a better emotional fitness, if that makes sense. And the science of flourishing teaches all what can we train, what can we do, where can we learn, and what questions to ask ourselves so we can deal with those emotions from a welcoming perspective more than denial and letting them control ourselves, if that makes sense. That's then called emotional agility, and there's someone that I really admire, that her name is Susan David, that she's a great resource for that emotional agility topic. So I merged those positive psychology tools, and I helped my clients to focus on those strengths that I was talking before, so I can connect them to that emotional state. And through active imagination, which is very similar to meditation, but the point of it, more than calming us down, is helping us visualize a space, visualize a reality that our emotion would be fed with. Which means, like in the movies, our brains, and you might have heard this before, our brains doesn't really understand or distinguish in which emotions are because of something real or which are because of something else. So that's why we do feel and connect with books and what happens in our imagination within what we're reading or with movies. So active imagination is the practice of placing that visualization technique in service of connecting ourselves with the positive emotions that will help us move forward, that will help us be more proud of ourselves because we are giving ourselves the gift to train those emotions, to train our body emotionally to remember how that feels when we need it. And then the generative AI clip tools, which are generative AI focused on creating images, I would build for them those places as near as I could to what we're connecting to them, so they could use it then to remember that emotion. As it happens to some people, for example, with some smells, it can happen. And when you go back, it happens to me now that I'm not in Colombia. When I go back to my mom's house, that used to be my home for many years, it brings back the emotion of comfort and love that I used to have there. And when I recall it in my imagination, I can get back into that feeling. And I'm sure that most of you have a place or a smell or a concert that connects you with emotions. That's what happens with these images. The most beautiful thing of them is that I just started using that with some of my patients out of the theory that if I could bring into a more tangible reality what connected them from their essence, from their creativity, to the emotions of courage, confidence, love, and belonging, maybe when I'm not there, they can still remember that moment, because it's from their own selves. And there is where I say to give back the power of people of healing, because I'm just transmitting a tool. I'm just placing knowledge into service, but it is themselves who are giving the chance to feel and to create and imagine and receive. So then they started sending me WhatsApp messages, or in LinkedIn, depends, about some of the use cases that they were giving it. They started printing them and setting them in their rooms at home to build their homes as part of their inspiration and their space of having that feeling back, which I thought was beautiful. Some of them would place them in their phone screens and send me the screenshot telling me, today I had a very difficult conversation with my boss, but I clicked my phone, saw this image, and remembered how it felt to feel courageous. So I went and talked to him. Some of them started to placing the images, and actually that was the first use case I have. He placed the image in the back of the Zoom call, in the background of our call, and it would make him feel more open to communicate, because it reminded him of how it felt to be in that safe space, to be in that belonging space. So this is just, after having those experiences, I started asking for some feedback to see if what was all of this about. 90% of them actually felt more emotionally uplifted when they received the image, but mostly when they got to see it again. in the way that they felt freely that they would use it. 85% felt that they were motivated to keep working in their emotional healing. Some of these people were not even in sessions with me. They just got curious about how it felt to go into an active imagination session and then receiving an AI-generated image. And it was very beautiful to see how they really enjoyed how they felt and understood that they could choose how to feel. That they learned that they could choose, it was within their own selves, the power of dialing down anxiety, of dialing down stress, because they could place themselves into a better emotional state to continue and to make other decisions, better decisions. And last but not least, 85% would recommend to a friend. And I think one of the most beautiful things of this is that it's not very invasive, which means you can learn from your own emotions, you can create self-awareness, and you can't set them into positive emotional trigger without having to disclose everything. And that's one of the added values that I wanted to give with this experience, and it is sometimes we're not ready to talk that much, and that does not mean we do not need help or want help in a proactive way or wanting to train constantly. I do have been in my own healing journey for over 7 years, and I keep it like, I always say, like physical fitness. Like you don't have to wait to not feel fine to go exercise daily and take care of your body. Emotionally, it's pretty much the same. But I wanted to find a tool and find a way, a solution that could help these people even without having or taking them or force them to talk about things that they might not be ready to or want to, and that's still okay. So I want to say here and to remind you all that give yourselves a chance to learn how to train your emotions and to read your body, to remember emotionally how it feels. Because when hard times comes, that uniqueness, what works for you, is what will make you deal with those challenges in a healthier way for yourselves and for others. And that's how we actually create together a more empathic world. These images and all the images that you've seen here, yes, I've done them inspired within the experiences I've had with my clients. None of them are the space of anyone because I'm very respectful of that privacy. But there's some tips that I've seen constantly, and is nature. There's a bunch of research about the power of nature in our well-being. But the beauty of this is that most of them would mention nature in their safe space. Give yourself the space to go to nature from time to time, just to receive that emotion, just to receive that energy. These are some of the things that they were saying. They would feel safe, seen and heard, joyful, awareness, their true self, and peaceful. These words for me are, I say, like water in the desert. They just move me so much. Because when it comes to well-being and when it comes to choosing to build mindful technology, I wish we all are aware that our uniqueness is what matters the most. There's no one fit for all. But what do actually help is knowing ourselves better. And because this is so powerful, if you have any chance at any moment with someone that you know or you do not know that is opening their hearts to you, that is being vulnerable in work, with your friends, with someone that you might see sad and you don't know why, or even with joyfulness that they're sharing with you, even they might not know you that much, making other people feel seen and heard will bring them into a state of worthiness. And I believe that if we will all feel worthy, if we will all feel confident, and for so gain courage, we would make more decisions belonging to ourselves first, with more careful and forgiving to ourselves as well when we screw up. And we would be building a more empathic world where all of these details matter, where paying attention matters. And things as generative AI will always be tools that we can learn, that fortunately we're in the area of technology being more welcoming for non-tech background people like me, to use it for good. To decide how can we add more value to our present world, to actually solve problems for others that can create impact, and to take care of ourselves first, proactively, so we can take care of others as well. And I do believe that when it comes to the future of well-being, our uniqueness is what matters the most. Thank you for listening to me.